Hey guys, it's me, Scott the Steamroller Steen. Now, as you probably know, I'm the lead handicapper over at winnersandwhiners.com. You also probably know that I have a large, loyal customer base for my premium plays that I give out every day. Many of those subscribers have been on board since day one. Now, last week, my premium subscribers enjoyed a 12-game winning streak before we started the NFL season, and it made me want to do something that I've never done before. Now, if you know me, you know I never use phrases like lock or sure thing, etc. But I have to be honest, there's a number on tonight's NFL game that just makes no sense to me. And I think we've got a real advantage. And I want to share this real life premium play with you, my loyal listeners or viewers, whichever the case may be, absolutely free. All you have to do is text WIN NFL. That's WIN NFL to 571 winner 1 or 571 946 6371. And I will shoot you my play. No cost, no obligation, 100% free. Just my way of sharing my hot streak and simply saying thanks for being a loyal subscriber. Remember, that's text WIN NFL to 571 winner 1 571 946 6371. Thanks and good luck tonight. And now, on with the show. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Winners and Whiners radio show. It is Winners and Whiners Radio. I am your host, Scott Steehn, lead handicapper over at winnersandwhiners.com.
And I'm your co-host, Scott Reichel, senior handicapper of winnersandwhiners.com.
And together, we make up Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour, and we'll give you the winners. Scotty, how'd your Wednesday end up going?
Overall, decent. I didn't really have much action. The one play that I liked, I mentioned on the show. I liked the Reds-Pirates score first inning, and the Reds scored 2 in the first. So that was a nice minus 115 winner. Besides that, took it easy. Watched the Yankees almost give me a heart attack.
Yeah, I was getting ready to send you some angry text, buddy, because I had the Yankees as one of our premium plays, and that was the only one that I really had to sweat. We also had the St. Louis Cardinals at a plus price that I still don't understand. I don't understand why I got plus 150 on that play, but you know what? We'll certainly lap it up every chance we get. And then we faded Griffin Jacks and the Indians over the Twins. Another game where money hit the wrong side of the board. Didn't understand that either, but we were happy to take advantage. So 3-0 for me on everything except our farm play, Scott. They had plenty of chances, even had a chance to tie it up and take it to extras there in the ninth, but just couldn't get it done. So that was
both teams combined 4 for 16 with the runners in scoring position.
Brutal. Just absolutely brutal, my friend. So we got a lot to get to today, man. We've got college football tonight. We've got NFL football tonight. We've got a couple of topics to get to, and maybe throw in a little NBA talk there as well. Some college football, like I said. It's going to be a full show, Scott, as it always is. So, you know what? Let's get it rolling, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Let's talk about the people that maybe didn't have the luck that we had, Scott. Maybe didn't quite do as well. These were the unfortunate people that just pretty much got ripped off. And the only thing you can do when you get ripped off, that's call the cops, baby. Let's do it. All right. Very good. We're going to start it with a play from where, Scott? The MLB, as always. This is going to be the Orioles money line plus 157, playing those dreaded Yankees. The Orioles, they scrapped around, Scott. They were down 2-0. They ended up coming back, taking the lead 3-2 going into the ninth inning. Can anybody on this team close a ball game? Scott, the answer is no, they cannot. Yankees scored 2 runs in the top of the ninth, and that's all you need. Chapman, he looked a lot like Chapman, Scott, as he closed them out there in the bottom of the ninth. Orioles lose that one 4-3. If you had them on the money line plus 157, sorry, Charlie, time to call the cops.
And looking at the second one, if you had the Red Sox and Mariners under 8.5, you only had 6 runs after 9 innings, so you win. But wait a second, I heard it's not the NFL, and you actually have to play until there's a winner. So it was 3-3, and they had to go to extras. And the Red Sox scored 6 runs in the top of the 10th. Seattle scored 1 run in the bottom of the 10th for no apparent reason at all, and the game ended in 9-4.
So since the NFL just does that stupid 10-minute overtime, which I think is just horrific. But
people complained about ties, and they're like, fine. How about we reduce the overtime by about a third and we keep the ties. Like, no, you made it worse.
It's just unbelievable that they did that. So my point is, I think baseball needs to do the same thing. You put a serious shot clock on the pitcher. You give them each 10 minutes. They can score as many runs as they want. At the end, it's all over.
See, the way I'm looking at it is that I'm okay with ties if I have the under, but if I have the over, then I like the current format.
Fair enough. Boy, this current format, it is an over bettor's dream when you get to the 9th inning there, or the 7th inning, as the case may be. So we're going to finish it up, Scott. If you had the Nationals on the money line taking on the Marlins, they led by 2 runs going into the top of the 9th. Is this going to be another Nationals bullpen story? It is, isn't it? The Marlins, they scored 4 runs in the top of the 9th. If you know the Marlins, you know that's about 3 days worth right there. The Nationals lose this one 8-6. If you had the Nationals on the money line, I feel like this may have been said before. You should probably call the cops. My God, what a dreadful bullpen.
Definitely not a fun time. The Nationals are one of those teams where if you're betting on them, probably take the first 5, but I'm sure you figured that out by now.
Right. And you would think in that division that they would be far and away the worst bullpen, but we're going to talk about a team in a minute that has them beat. And it's just an amazing stat, Scott. It really is. All right. So the other side of that, the nice, easy victories, these are the people that were sitting in the place you want to be. They were just relaxing in the rocket chair.
So the first one was one of the games that you bragged about earlier in the show, was the Cardinals on the money line at plus 155 against the Mets. They led 5-0 after 1 inning and then ended up winning the game 11-4. Mets favored again against one of the hotter teams in the NL wildcard race, one of the only teams trying to win in the NL wildcard race, and the Cardinals took them behind the woodshed again.
Yeah, it almost looks like there's only one team trying to win. Did you understand that number at all, Scott?
No.
I just didn't get it at all.
I had a small sprinkle on the first 5. I didn't take the full game because the Cardinals' bullpen's also terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the Mets being favored pretty much against, I don't want to say any competent team, but at this point, I get they beat the Yankees 2 out of 3. You still got to play out the rest of the schedule, and I don't think the Mets realize that.
It seems like they went to about 140 or about 135 and quit. Like, oh, okay, very good. Well, Scott, here's another one that I had. My goodness, it's everything's coming up Millhouse today. If you had the Indians on the money line against the Twins, again getting plus money, derp. You led 5-0 after 5 innings, and you led 10-0 going into the top of the 7th. They ended up winning that one 12-3 as Griffin gives up jacks was pitching for the Twins. It's a great nickname, Scott. You actually kind of came up with that. I like it because
I know he said that in the past when he just got called up, and then it appears the home runs keep following him.
Right up there with Bob Walk, Grant Balfour.
Unfortunately, Junk actually had some good stuff yesterday.
Did Junk? Was he okay?
4 1/3, 1 run, I think. But
okay.
White Sox had guys on base; they just couldn't capitalize.
Is he a hard thrower? Is he a junk? Is he a junk pitcher?
No, he's a junk ball pitcher. I mean, come on. But anyway, looking at the last one, if you had the Blue Jays -1.5 against the Rays, that was, I believe, an afternoon game. It was pretty easy because the Blue Jays led 3-0 after 1 inning, led 6-1 after 5 innings, and then ended up winning the game 6-3. So if you had the Blue Jays -1.5, nice and easy winner.
There was one good Ray in that game, and they didn't play for Tampa Bay. It was Robbie Ray.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about him a little bit too.
We will. We're just doing all kinds of foreshadowing here, my friend. We're just dropping nuggets all over the place. So we did kind of touch on it, but we really want to hit it hard there. We have a very deserving organization, team, staff that is going to wear the golden feed bag today. They're going to have to work it out. We're just going to send one golden feed bag. We're not made of money around here. Let's find out who's wearing it, Scott, in today's version of Donkey of the Day. All right, bud. You want to tell us who it is?
Yes, I will. So, the Philadelphia Phillies, of course, competing for a wild card spot and technically a division spot because the NL East is god-awful. Phillies won yesterday, so I guess that's the silver lining. However, they did blow another save in that game. and that was the 31st blown save of the season.
That sounds like a lot.
They are 3 shy of tying the National League record since 1969. Now, I'm going to remind everybody that's 31 blown saves. They're currently 3 games out of a playoff spot. They also paid Harper $330 million and Real Muto $115.5 million. Plus, they also paid Wheeler a lot of money. The point is, they paid a lot of guys, and they forgot to pay any competent pitchers in the bullpen.
So you're saying Ian Kennedy is not the answer?
I'm saying apparently former Yankee and Royal Ian Kennedy is not the answer.
That is surprising. Archie Bradley? No?
Nah, Archie Bradley, I don't think cut it either.
Another ex-Royal. Oh man. Yeah, this is now to be clear, just because you've blown 31 saves doesn't mean you've lost 31 extra games like we saw last night.
All I know is they've lost. They haven't won all 31 of those games. Let's just get that out of the way.
It definitely puts you at a disadvantage when you have a lead late in the game and then no longer have it. There's no question about that. I would guess, I don't know, Scott, without doing some kind of meticulous research, which that's not really our thing.
You could also blow multiple saves in the same game, so of course that could factor in.
What do you think? You lose 20 of those? Is that?
I got to assume 20. I think 20 is being generous, but I think it's probably somewhere between
20 and 25.
22.
Yeah, probably right in that neighborhood. It certainly is enough to make the difference between fighting for a wild card spot and running away with the NL East.
And of course, they're still in the hunt for the division. They're within 3 or 4 games, but they would be so far ahead right now if they could just get 3 outs in the 9th inning.
Tells you how good the rest of the team is.
Yep.
The fact that they're able to overcome this. So it's just, it's incredible. I feel bad for them, but I'm certainly rooting for them to break the record.
Yeah, we'll definitely revisit this if they blow another 4 saves down the stretch.
And, I don't want to toot our own horn, although that's kind of what we do, but we talked about it in our preview show way back in the winter, Scott. We talked about this Philly team that had a lot of sticks, not a lot of arms in the bullpen.
Well, it's a disastrous combo because I mentioned before the season started that they have no bullpen, and Girardi's a manager who during his time with the Yankees, I remember, would overuse the bullpen. So it's really just a terrible combo because Girardi's going to pull the starters in some questionable spots to go to the relievers, and the relievers can't get an out. So you're going to have some problems on your hands.
He was sketchy in the American League. You start adding in the National League factor, and he may be, a little over his skis?
I think he's a fine manager. He just needs a decent bullpen, and he just doesn't have that.
No, good point. All right, Scott. So this next award, we're about ready to retire this. We really are.
Well, it's going to be Deja Vu, the 3rd one.
Yes. Although there was enough drinking in this one to go around. So let's find out, besides the odds makers, Scott, and they were certainly a little tipsy, but let's find out who else was drunk, shall we? All right, this is a game that I talked about, and like I said, we're just going to retire this award and name it the Mets Award, because the Mets, you think you pay a Yankees tax. Holy mackerel, Scott! I did not. This is one of the most confusing lines of the year for me. The Mets were a minus 170 favorite against the Cardinals, even though St. Louis had won 6 of their last 7 and had a decided advantage there on the mound, as Lester had been pitching pretty well since the trade. And McGill had been going the wrong direction. It looks like they might have figured the rookie out a little bit.
Cardinals also won the first 2 games of that series, by the way.
Cardinals had won the first 2 games of that series. Now, the funny thing about this one is it opened about 170 or so, about 160. It came down to around 140. And then right before game time, the New York money just pounded the Mets, and it was back up to 170, and that's where it went off, Scott. That's free money. That is free money. You're giving me better than 3-2. So I don't know who's drunker, the odds makers that set that odds in the first place, or the public that said, you know what, minus 150 on the Mets, that's a great price. I'm going to pound that. Who's drunker?
The way I'm looking at it is I'm going to give the bettors a pass because nobody likes to drink alone. So maybe the bettors felt like they should join the odds makers in some type of celebration.
I don't know. That was just I loaded up on that. I'm going to be honest with you. It was
I don't blame you because they were up 5-0 after about 15 minutes.
yeah, McGill just not good, not good at all. The only McGill I want to see any more of is Jimmy McGill.
So that's fair. I don't even know if you actually want to see him or not because it means you probably did something wrong. But anyway, the way I'm looking at it is that we mentioned it for game 1, game 2, and game 3 of the series. You can really just include the entire series into one if you wanted to, because the Mets were favored in pretty much every game of the series. The Wainwright one may be a little bit dicey because they were favorites initially, then they closed as dogs. But they were favorites in the overnight market in every single game. And the Cardinals are clearly playing better baseball, and nobody cared.
Cardinals have a better record. They've got a better record lately. I didn't understand any of that series at all. We loaded up on the Cardinals every game.
Oh, we understood it. The odds makers didn't understand it.
No, I know. And it's, let's be honest. The odds makers usually do a pretty good job. But every once in a while, there'll be something that slips through the cracks like that. And that's why we like to point it out, because massive alcohol abuse is really the only excuse at this point.
That's the same conclusion I got.
Okay, fair enough. All right, guys. Quick reminder that you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour and we'll give you the winners. Well, Scott, it's been a real back and forth battle in the Cy Young competition there in the American League. Not between, between one of the guys we thought would be in part of that battle, but the other guy, a little bit of a surprise, Scott?
A little bit.
So Robbie Ray, the game that you mentioned as the Toronto Blue Jays rolled again, he went out there and all he did, Scott, was go 7 innings, gave up 4 hits, 1 run, no walks. Robbie Ray, no walks, 13 strikeouts. Now, he probably has 3 starts left, maybe 4.
I was going to say potentially 4 if you need a must-win game. There might be a 3 days rest situation going on.
Right.
Same thing with Cole, of course, but we'll see.
Right. And Cole will be a day behind because he pitched the day before Robbie Ray. So he has a better shot at making 4 more starts than Ray does.
Yes.
Now, I don't want to start throwing the hyperbole, but did Robbie Ray not necessarily win the Cy Young, but did he put himself in a very good position to put some pressure on Garrett Cole?
So that's the thing, is that he was already in a good position. Of course, Cole pitched the day prior, 5 innings, 1 run against the Orioles. 5 innings, 1 run, he got the win. I guess that's a decent performance, but of course, Ray's performance was better if you're doing the comparison. So I don't really know if Ray won the Cy Young because I believe it's still neck and neck.
Right.
However, I think we would agree that if Ray got shelled or even just struggled at all in this start, he would have arguably killed his chances.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that he won it, but I do think that he kept pace for the next start that they're both going to have.
Now, the last I saw odds 3 days ago before the last start, and they had Cole somewhere around -110, Robbie Ray +130. I doubt that price is going to be available on Robbie Ray any longer.
I believe Ray is around +110, +115.
Where's your money, Scott? What you got?
I'm going to go with Ray if I had to pick one, but it's mostly because of the fact that Cole looked decent against the Orioles. Then again, he threw about 108 pitches in 5 innings, but he also had the hamstring issue 2 starts ago. So a part of me is a bit concerned if Cole's actually going to be able to stay healthy down the stretch because he's just been a little bit banged up lately. Does that concern you at all?
Sure. If I'm a Garrett Cole backer at this point, it absolutely concerns me. He's been fighting little nicks and dings all season long. Robbie Ray, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he's missed his start, has he?
If he did, it was very early in the year, but I don't recall him being injured for the last couple months.
No, not at all. Now, here's my question to you. Does team success matter? Does it come down, if these guys both pitch well coming down the stretch, maybe nobody distinguishes themselves, they both have some good outings, does it come down to which team makes the playoffs?
See, I think it might, but there is a caveat to that, which is the fact that the Yankees play against Toronto at some point down the stretch. So if they have a head-to-head meeting or maybe 2 head-to-head meetings down the stretch, then I do think whoever outperforms the other one is going to have a leg up whether that team makes the playoffs or not. So I do think it could have an impact as a tiebreak. But if you end up seeing a head-to-head matchup down the stretch between these two teams, and they are facing off against each other, I think whoever wins that head-to-head meeting probably has an advantage. You agree
How?
with that?
Yeah, I do. I just think I would really like to see that. I think that would be a hoot.
Well, this is kind of interesting because it says Cole is supposed to pitch on the 25th against Boston. Then you end up having a day off on Monday. Then they face Toronto Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. So the Yankees could hypothetically skip somebody in the rotation and have Cole pitch in the Thursday game because they have a day off. So there is a chance that Cole could actually face off against Toronto, or they might use him on Friday against Tampa. So it really depends how the Yankees want to juggle the off-day schedule stuff with Cole.
And they might just choose to keep him on regular rest too.
They might. I'm just saying. So as of right now, if you were going based on rotation, Cole would not face off against Toronto, but with the bye or the day off in between the Boston series that ends on Sunday and the Toronto series starting on Tuesday, you can make a case for Cole appearing one spot earlier in the rotation.
You're absolutely right. So, all right, let's put your feet to the fire here, buddy. 3 teams are virtually tied there in the AL East for the wild card spot, and then you've got the Athletics 3.5 back. You've got the Mariners 4 back. For lack of let's say they're done. It's certainly possible they could make a run, but they've got a lot of teams to catch. So
Seattle, I don't want to say they killed their chances over the past couple of days, but you kind of had to win that Boston series.
Yep. Agreed. And they didn't, and that was huge. And so you've got 3 teams that are basically competing for 2 spots there, Scott. Who's the odd team out?
Oh, it's a really, really tough one. I think Toronto's getting in. I just really like that team.
Okay.
At the end of the day, I think the foundation's there. I think the rotation's good enough with Ray and Berrios and Ryu. I know Ryu hasn't been as consistent lately, but that's still a pretty good top 3. And the lineup, we know how good that is. I think it's between the Yankees and Boston. And it's a situation where both of those teams have very similar flaws because the bullpens, not as good as they should be. The rotations, they have really one guy. Of course, Cole's been better than Chris Sale, but the point is the other guys, 2 through 5, aren't exactly reliable. And the lineups are good, or at least on paper. Boston's lineup's been more productive, but I think we can agree both offenses have not really been as sharp lately. I know the Red Sox scored 9 runs yesterday, but 6 of them came in the 10th inning.
Right.
So I'm going to hold my nose and pick the Yankees. But if Boston does get in over the Yankees, it would not surprise me at all because one of these two teams, Boston wasn't really supposed to be here, so I'm not going to blame them if they end up not making it. The Yankees were supposed to. But it's really just a crapshoot at this point. I think Toronto does get in, though. You?
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedules,
The
and
Yankee schedule is pretty favorable over the next week and a half.
it is, and then it's not.
Correct. Then it becomes brutal because you face off against the Red Sox, Toronto, and Tampa.
Right.
So these 3 teams, not even including the Tampa series, but of course Tampa's going to be tough. Those 3 teams are going to kill each other.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make hay in the other games, and of course, Boston has 6 games against Baltimore, while the Yankees, they have 1 more against Baltimore, then they have 3 against Cleveland and 3 against Texas. You know, Cleveland all of a sudden playing pretty good ball right now.
Playing decently.
Not going to be a pushover. But the Boston, like I said, they got 3 against Baltimore. They got 6 against Baltimore and 3 against Washington. And they've got 5 games against the New York teams. They've got 3 games against the Yankees, 2 against the Mets. I've got to think,
and the Mets might be dead at that point.
Yeah, I got to think Baltimore has the favorable schedule there. So
I mean Boston.
I mean Boston. Sorry, yeah, absolutely right.
That's fair. I think for the next week and a half or so, it's close, but it's going to come down to those 3 games.
Agreed. So if you're making your futures picks, if you can still get it, keep Boston. You saying keep Boston out?
I'm saying as of right now, I'll lean Boston out, but it's just because I've seen a flash from the Yankees where they won 13 straight, which might have been a fluke, but Boston over the last couple of weeks, I feel like is mostly treading water. Is that a fair way to put it? Because the Yankees have been up, down, up, down, up, down.
Yeah.
And I feel like Boston's kind of just been the same 6-4 out of the last 10,
Yeah.
5-5 out of the last 10. Like, I feel like they're just kind of barely above 500, which is decent enough, but they haven't had many wow moments over the last couple of weeks. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. They've gone. They've won two, lost two, won one, lost one, won one, lost one, lost two, won two. So I mean,
They're treading. I mean, that's
that's
how I'm looking at it.
exactly what they're doing.
So if
So
the Yankees are a very streaky team and maybe they can rekindle something, I know they ended up winning 3 in a row. Then again, Minnesota and Baltimore pumped the brakes. But if the Yankees could hypothetically win 7 of their next 8, I think they're going to be a couple games up on Boston.
yeah, I agree. All right, so let's take a look in the National League. You've got the Dodgers, of course. If they don't catch the Giants, they are stone cold locked into the first wild card spot. So we really just have 5 teams, if we count the Mets, fighting for one spot. You've got the Cardinals currently holding that spot.
Well, I was going to ask, are we counting the Mets or are we calling them dead?
Well, you could certainly include them. They're 5 games back right now.
Of course, they still have like 3 weeks to figure it out. But I am curious if you think they maybe bounce back, or you think that sweep is basically just the camel that the straw that broke the camel's back.
I think that was such a critical series to lose to St. Louis, and last night's game was so big because you know how it works. If you go 1-2, you just lose a game in the standings. If you go 0-3, you lose 3 games. So it's really you're playing that last game, which really means 2 games in the standings, and that was a brutal win. They weren't even competitive. So and they also have 4 teams to leapfrog, and that's probably even a bigger problem than worrying about the Mets getting hot, is worrying about everybody else cooling off at the same time that has a lead over you. Do you think the Cardinals do their Cardinal thing? You and I talked about it a month ago, how I
got money on them a month ago, so plus
turn
850,
around,
hanging strong.
Yeah, I mean, you turn around, you talk about every other team under the sun, and you look up, and then all of a sudden there's the Cardinals. So
every year, you just look around and go, I don't like any of these teams. How far is St. Louis back? 35 games. I feel like they got a shot down the stretch. Like St. Louis is always randomly finds a way late in the year, and they're the only team right now that's not tripping over themselves.
They're not scoring. I hate their pitching, and then you look up and like, oh my God, they're only a game out. Yep, there you go.
Pretty much.
So are we gonna lock the Cardinals in? Padres and Reds played too much terrible baseball down the stretch.
I am. There's only so many games that you can lose, whether San Diego to Arizona, San Diego to anybody over the last 3 weeks, or Cincinnati just losing a series to Pittsburgh at this point. You just can't fumble these series against bottom feeder teams. You just can't do it.
Right. I agree. You have to make hay against those teams. It's just brutal. All right. So we're gonna go with the Dodgers and Cardinals. And
my question for you: do you think that Wainwright outduels Buehler in the wild card game? I would laugh so hard if like an 84-win Cardinals team beats the Dodgers in the wild card game. I'm going to laugh so hard.
Nothing better.
It's going to be hilarious to me.
See, you know how you feel about the Dodgers? That's the way the rest of the world feels about the Yankees.
I just think it's funny because you have a situation where I don't want to say it's Beastquake Seattle versus New Orleans, but that's kind of the feel where you have a team that's basically 500 or below 500 facing off against this phenomenal team. And it's just a 1-game elimination situation where if Buehler or Scherzer have one bad pitch, one bad outing, and Wainwright pitches a gem, then you can just take your 100 wins and throw it in the garbage.
I'd like to know what Wainwright is, what regimen he's got this year where he has turned back the clock. Because he looked done the last couple of seasons. He wasn't, he was fine. But
I'm also curious what pitcher the Dodgers are going to use in that wild card game, but that's a separate story.
Well, I would think you don't think you don't.
Could be Buehler or Scherzer. I mean, they're 2 top 3 Cy Young candidates.
Isn't it weird that we're not even considering Kershaw?
Well, because he's been injured for the entire season, and
I understand, but I mean, you've got 2 pitchers. I mean, even if he'd have pitched the way he did at the beginning of the season, not gotten hurt, I still think we'd be in the same spot. We'd be talking about Scherzer and Buehler.
I think we would be too.
All right, yeah, it's very the times they are a changing, as Bob Dylan said, Scott. So We've got the Cardinals. We got the Dodgers. Padres, sorry, you can't lose that many. They kind of pulled it together last night, but a little bit too late. Cincinnati Reds, sorry boys, just really picked a bad time to get cold. Phillies, that bullpen's going to get you, and the Mets, no, not going to happen. So, here's a scary thought. If you're a Mets fan, Scott, you're only 3.5 up on the Colorado Rockies.
So the Rockies have draws now?
That is not a place you want to be. Oh, the Rockies are live. They're 8.5 back with 16 games left.
Not likely, but maybe.
Time to step on the gas, boys. I hope
time to win a couple. I hope they play those final 16 games at home.
I was just gonna say, I hope it's a home game. I hope it's a home stand. You and I were talking off the air yesterday that this Toronto team, the run they're on, kind of reminds us of I don't even know. You probably know what year Rockies that was, where they went on the 21 of 23 or whatever it was to end the season.
I believe that was 07.
I was going to guess 06, 07. I knew it has to be right in there, but this Toronto team is really finishing strong. So should be fun. I just want to see new blood, Scott. That's really all I want to see. So I'm excited about seeing Toronto. That's probably my favorite team that's not called the Kansas City Royals. I love the youngsters. We've always had a soft spot for Robbie Ray. So we'll be back to talk about more of this right after the break. Hey guys, it's me again. Remember, we talked in the beginning. You didn't hear. We're going to do a special deal. I'm going to give one of my genuine premium plays away. And, I don't get on and brag about my premium plays a lot, but I am hotter than a $2 pistol right now. We started we went 12-0 yesterday, or excuse me, last week. Had a decent weekend as far as college goes, and we kind of got hammered on the NFL, a couple bad beats, but we started off this week well again, 5-1, and I want to give you one of my favorite plays of the last couple of weeks that are going to be lining up on this NFL game. So all you have to do, it's a very, very simple deal. Just pick up your phone and text win NFL, WIN NFL to 571 winner one. That's 571-946-6371. I'll shoot you the play. No cost, no obligation, 100% free. Just a thanks for watching and for listening. So make sure you do that. All right. You guys take care. Now back to the show. All right. And welcome back to the second half of Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour and we'll give you the winners, everybody. All right. So we've got that all worked out. Oh, Scott, bad news for you as a Dallas Cowboy fan. Real quick here, just to pour one out for DeMarcus Lawrence, broke his foot. Going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. Team looked pretty good against Tampa Bay. They look like a team that might be able to contend there, especially in the National Football Conference Eastern Division. Scott, how badly does this hurt their chances to win the East?
It hurts. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't. Then again, I know we disagreed during the early lines for the NFL earlier in the week. You were going to take the boys on the road. I liked the Chargers. I don't know if you've converted to my side, but it definitely doesn't help Dallas in this situation.
No, you really kind of need all hands on deck there against Herbert and the Chargers. So
the way I'm looking at it is that the Cowboys are going to be somewhat in the hunt because the NFC East right now, the best team is arguably through week 1, Philly, but they also played Atlanta, and Washington lost a close game to the Chargers, and the Chargers are a good team. The point is the Cowboys, you can make an argument, are the third best team in that division right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was with a healthy Lawrence. I don't really see much hope, but we'll see. It's the NFC East. Things will get interesting. Things will get weird. But as long as the offense can continue generating 30 points per game or so, they'll always be competitive in games. But the issue last year was the defense. You brought in a new defensive coordinator. You ended up drafting a linebacker. If you have no secondary and you can't rush the passer, you might as well pack it up and go home.
Yeah, I agree. And that secondary, Scott,
it's terrible.
I thought they'd do more to address it.
They didn't do anything. Well, they drafted Diggs in one of the later rounds, but they were going to go for Surtain in the draft. He went to Denver, but they didn't even go free agency for anybody or anything like that. They just decided we're going to fix the scheme and not the players. And my argument is the scheme doesn't help if the players stink.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's not. you're only as good as your pieces. It's not necessarily, you could be the greatest chess player in the world, but if you're using checkers instead of actual chess pieces, not going to work out for
And
you.
no, I'm not saying that, of course, it doesn't work in every situation because, of course, Belichick has a system, other guys have systems. You think McCarthy's got a good system for actually winning games without all hands on deck? Probably not.
It doesn't seem like it. He doesn't seem like a great adjust on the fly kind of guy.
I don't think he is either. So do I think the Cowboys will be embarrassing? No. Are they going to win the division? I didn't have them win the division in the first place. So no.
And you didn't change your thoughts on that after watching them play against Tampa?
I think the offense was good. My main takeaway was, damn, Tampa's defense is terrible. But if we walked into a game, any game against Tampa with a healthy Brady and all the receiving weapons, and I told you right now, how many points does Dallas need to score to win this game? You're probably going to tell me 34-35.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was before the game was even played.
Yep.
And I could ask you right again this week. They're playing the Chargers. How many points do you need to win? Probably 31.
Got to have 30 plus, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So the offense might be capable of doing that, but you're not going to win many games if you cannot get a stop in the fourth quarter when you need it.
Well, and it's a good – I mean, you do have to remember that it is a very good Cowboys offense. I'm sure you remember, but they averaged over 32 points a game for the 5 games where they had Dak last year. Were they put 29 up the first week?
I believe so, yes. But they also lost one of those games. Dak had 500 yards. They lost to Cleveland anyway.
Right.
And one of the games they won was a miracle onside kick game against Atlanta. So they were going to lose games anyway, even though the offense was great.
That's right. And I don't understand. To me, that's negligent as an owner, GM, whatever Jerry Jones calls himself, not to address the defense. I
call him an idiot, but I mean, you can call him whatever title you want.
Well, it's a little bit like being in Kansas City, where you've got this finely tuned offensive machine with a high quality top 5 kind of quarterback, and you just don't have that same quality on defense. Now, the Chiefs have addressed it a little bit where, when we saw Mahomes at first season, you go, well, if the Chiefs had an average defense, they'd win the Super Bowl.
But at least you went out. You got Clark. You got Matthew a couple of years ago.
Right.
Like, you made some moves.
That's what I'm saying.
What the Cowboys have done.
They ended up with an average defense. Guess what? They won the Super Bowl. That's exactly what happened. And actually, the defense went on a nice run there to stop this, just to end the season. But be that as it may, I feel bad for you, buddy. I like that Cowboys team. I didn't like them. I saw them play that first game. I'm like, you know what? Maybe they're going to have a little something here. So.
I forgot what the win total was for Dallas. I think it was like 9.5, maybe.
That sounds right.
Like
yeah.
that. I just remember liking the under because I just didn't think this team would stay healthy long enough to actually win that many games or get enough stops to win games.
Well, you had to figure it's probably going to be Van Der Esch that got hurt. So
you had to figure he was going to get hurt at some point. Jalen Smith's been a non-factor, and they paid him a lot of money.
Is Lee finally gone, right? He retired?
Lee retired, but he's on the coaching staff.
I was going to say, well, he's probably injured.
He was a great player who got injured all the time. But
I know.
At the end of the day, you keep investing in linebackers. That's great. But the defensive line, are you going to rely on Randy Gregory again, who's still for some reason on the team?
If you can't rush the passer and you can't defend the pass, and
that's what I'm saying. You're just going to lose games, especially in today. Unless you're playing in the 1970s where they run the ball every play, you're going to give up 30 points per game.
If anybody decides to run the single wing, I like the Cowboys' chances a lot. Other than that, it's going to be a long season. That is we talked about it. We talked about it before. I don't know how that's not a dead over team.
And Lawrence got one of the only stops of the game because he ended up having he forced the fumble on Ronald Jones. He didn't get a sack or anything, but he's clearly the best defensive lineman. And my question for you, if you can't pressure Herbert, have fun trying to cover Keenan Allen for more than 3 seconds at a time.
Yep, agreed. Hey, can I ask you something? Why do they pronounce it Herbert, but when the guy played for New Orleans, it was Hebert? It's spelled the same way, right?
One sounds Frencher.
Frencher?
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
It has that je ne sais quoi.
Laissez les bon temps rouler, Scott. Let the Hebert times roll.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my friend. One last thing to talk about here before we get to the games, and we'll do this real quick. It's a fascinating story. The NBA is not going to require vaccines for the upcoming season for only the players, Scott. Only the players. Now, there are vaccine mandates for all team, arena, other game day personnel whose duties require them to be within 15 feet of the players. That includes the referees and the areas used by players or referees. Now, in fairness, it is said that the NBA players are roughly 85% vaccinated as a group, but it's also going to perhaps cause some problems because various cities and jurisdictions, like the state of New York and the city of San Francisco, would bar any unvaccinated players from those teams that play there. So that's going to be the Knicks, the Nets, and the Warriors so far. I wouldn't be surprised to see it spread down the coast and have it affect the LA teams as well. And any unvaccinated player who lacked an approved exemption on medical or religious grounds, and whose status in that regard limited his availability, would be considered in breach of his contractual duties and thus subject to fines, suspensions, or a loss of pay. Okay, so yes or no on this? Are you okay with this, or should the NBA players suck it up?
I'm okay with it to some degree because that's kind of what the NFL did in a way.
They
Because the
didn't really.
NFL,
The NFL was pretty crafty about it. They
I
said
was
we're
going to
not going to
say,
mandate. We
yeah,
can't do that.
because you have people in the NFL who got vaccinated and they're like, you really should. And then Kirk Cousins, Lamar Jackson go public and say, I think the vaccine's stupid. And they just decided I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And they're still playing. Lamar played week 1.
Mm-hmm.
So I do find it kind of similar to what the NFL did, where they try to really, really inch you to the right direction, but they're not going to fully push you off the ledge.
Right.
So you can kind of make your own decision, even though it's about 90% made for you. But I think that everybody on the Nets, the Knicks, and the Warriors will be vaccinated because they want to play. And I'm assuming if you're not vaccinated, you're not going to get paid in home games because you can't show up to the arena.
Right. And I'm trying to think of some of the other places where that might have an effect. Like we said, I can't believe it's not in Southern California yet.
I was going to say, yeah, you say Golden State. I'm assuming it's going to end up taking place for the Clippers, the Kings, and the Lakers, of course.
The Lakers as well, right. Now, Sacramento, more of a conservative town, so unless they do it statewide, maybe the Kings get away with it. But
the Kings will be out of playoff contention by the All-Star break anyway, so I don't know if it even matters.
I think you're safe in Texas. I think the Rockets and Mavs aren't going to have to worry about it.
I think San Antonio is going to be safe too.
San Antonio as well. That's right. And maybe another team to worry about would be maybe Denver.
I think the Heat are going to be safe. I think Orlando is going to be safe.
Yep.
But the point is that it's kind of like the NFL where they try to tell you what to do in a way, but they leave you enough gray area for you to not do it. I am not surprised by it. Do I think most players will get vaccinated anyway? Yes. But according to reports, most already are vaccinated. So it might inch a couple more over the line in specific towns. I'm sure there are some players who still don't want to get the vaccine. So I don't really have an issue with it. I think it's kind of similar to what the NFL did.
Yeah, the NFL basically just made it so onerous if you weren't vaccinated, and such a substantial penalty that if you have to cancel that game, if you can't play those games, that not only does your team lose their game checks, but the other team lose their game checks. We're waiting for that to happen, Scott, because it is going to be the proverbial poop hitting the proverbial fan when that goes down. We talked about it before the season, and we're just kind of holding our breath, waiting for that to happen for the first time this year.
I don't think it's going to happen, but then again,
you think every game will be played on schedule?
I think it'll be played on schedule, debatable, but I do think that the NFL after last year is not going to want to reschedule games into the middle of the week. I think worst case is promote some practice squad guys. They're playing anyway. You have no wide receivers. It sucks to be you. You're going to play.
Did you hear the story why they made Denver play last year?
I thought it was because they weren't actually following protocol and stuff like that.
Yes. Did you know how they did it?
I forgot. Didn't they go to like a club or something?
No, they went to the meeting, and they had their vaccine tracers. You have to wear your vaccine tracer to let you know where you are. They took them off, put them in the four corners of the room, and then sat together and watched film for the meeting. Okay. And that's why they were not allowed to reschedule that game, because they broke protocol.
I don't know why they couldn't just keep it on, but sure.
Because they wanted to be together to watch the film.
Oh, okay.
So they took them off, put them in the four corners of the room, then they pushed their chairs together and watched film together. Now, I don't know why you have to be together to watch film. I don't know why you don't. I'm sure they have a huge viewing room that you can watch film and put it up and everybody gets to see it, sit in comfortable chairs. I don't understand why they all have to be together. But then again, Scott, this may come as a surprise to you. Never been in an actual NFL quarterback's room. So
you got to copy the other person's notes.
I guess What'd you get for the 5-3
He
defense?
starts looking over. You get B or C on that one. Okay. Just starts
Who's
writing it down. But
who's my hot read? Is it
but
not the
I'm
tackle?
assuming you'll agree that the NFL after last year, you can promote half the practice squad. I think you're going to try to get as many games done on the same day as it was scheduled for.
I agree.
Control, the NFL might just say, screw it, you have to play 10 guys down.
Yeah. To paraphrase Goodfellas, screw you, play me.
Yep.
It's going to be how that works. So it'll be an interesting professional season, Scott, because arguably the Delta variant is actually a little more contagious than the regular COVID-19 was last year, but yet this year we're just acting like it's really not a thing.
I mean, I did hear that, but hear me out. I'm going to Vegas in a week anyway. So I feel like I missed the memo on that one.
You know, I was surprised. I was looking into coming out and joining you in Vegas, and I was surprised the rooms were that expensive. I was surprised the prices were still up. I thought people are like, it's Vegas, baby, we're going.
You got the Raiders in town, man.
The Raiders.
Well, I'm actually going to the UFC event, so I'm going to go see Volkanovski and Ortega for the title. So I'm going to see that, which should be fun. Okay. But as a whole, I'm somewhat surprised. But then again, at some point, once a city like Vegas opens up, it's really tough to half close it back down and open it up again. It's just full steam ahead going forward.
I agree. All right, quick reminder, guys, you are listening to Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour, and we'll give you the winners. We're going to try to do that for this game right here, Scott. We got a little NFL action this evening. It is Thursday night football.
Well, I got a question for you, though.
What do you got?
If it's two AFC East teams, does it actually count as professional football?
Well, NFC East, but yes.
What did I say?
AFC.
Sorry, NFC East teams.
Yes.
Does that count as professional football?
Barely.
Okay, barely. Cool.
It's going to be the New York Football Giants against the Washington football team. Scott, the Taylor Heineke era begins for real in this one.
Alex Smith Jr.
Check down, Charlie. Check down.
I don't know if you agree with that. Playing styles, they really remind me of each other.
I don't, and I'll tell you what.
I mean, with the slight mobility and the relatively safe decision making, there are some similarities there.
He was known as a gunslinger early in his career, Scott, but I was really impressed with the way that he played that game against Tampa Bay last year.
Even the game last week, I thought he looked pretty good against the Chargers.
Yeah, what do you go, 11 for 14 came in there?
Yeah, 11 for 15, something like that. He didn't really do anything stupid. I thought he was fine.
They win that game if Gibson doesn't fumble, most likely.
True.
But here's the troubling part about that game is Washington couldn't get off the field on third down. They could let them convert 14 of 19.
But then again, we got to keep in mind, if you're comparing the Giants offense, which scored 7 points against Denver before garbage time, to the Chargers, who we think are a potential playoff team, do you think the defense goes off the field a little bit more on third down?
I do.
The answer is they might not need to because Jones might fumble on second down. So I don't even know, but we'll see. I think that it's really tough to factor in what happened in week 1 for Washington because you played against such a good team on the road. As for the Giants, I don't know how good Denver is, but I'm assuming we would agree Washington's probably a better football team than Denver.
I would certainly think so. Certainly they have a better defense, right?
I would have to assume so. Now, Denver's defense isn't bad, of course, because Von Miller is back, but the Giants struggled to such a degree stopping Teddy Bridgewater through the air that there are some serious questions about this pass defense for the Giants. Even the ground game, they gave up, 100-something yards to Melvin Gordon?
Yes, they gave up on 11,
it was like a 60-yard touchdown or something.
11 carries, they gave up 102 yards.
That's what I'm saying. So the Giants defense, which is supposed to be a Joe Judge, I know he was also a special teams coach, but he's more of a defensive Belichick wannabe. You got to do better than that. Like Washington, they really held Herbert in check before the final drive where he killed the entire clock. Am I supposed to roast Washington for limiting Herbert to basically 20 points? No. I can't roast him for that. Herbert's a good quarterback.
So my question is Daniel Jones the answer?
To what?
Well, that was the trick because I was going to say, unless the question is who is the best quarterback at Duke in 2018, Daniel Jones is almost certainly not the answer.
I'm not saying that you can officially call him a bust at this point, but
Right.
every time you watch him play, the ceiling is maybe a bottom 7 quarterback in the league.
Wow, that's roast worthy. You don't even think his ceiling
A
is
bottom 7 starting quarterback in the
middle.
league.
You don't even think it's middle of the pack.
I don't. At
You
the
don't
end of
think
the day,
one day he could be 15th.
the main issue that you have with him is kind of like Fitzpatrick, and that's the issue why he's been on so many teams. If you're just going to turn the ball over a minimum of like 2 times a game, you're going to be jumping around. And Fitzpatrick has the interceptions, but he also is not afraid to take chances. He'll make some big throws down the stretch. Kind of Favre-ish in a way, stylistically. He's not afraid to take the shot if it's triple coverage, and sometimes it works. Most of the time it doesn't. But Daniel Jones isn't even interceptions. The guy just fumbles the ball almost every single game.
Yeah, I don't really understand the whole fumble thing. Does he have small hands? Is that
I was
the
going to
deal?
say, is it a Derek Carr thing where he has smallish hands and he has a hard time gripping it? But I don't know, because if you're a mobile quarterback, which I guess is some of the appeal around Daniel Jones, but unless you slide, you might fumble 50% of the time you get hit, then I don't think teams want you scrambling.
Well, and it was definitely good news and bad news for the Giants last week. The good news is that Daniel Jones led the team in rushing. Bad news is Daniel Jones led the team in rushing. Barkley was
He may
not.
not even play this week. He's questionable.
I know he's questionable. It looks like he's going to play, but he's definitely going to have a pitch count, Scott, because they were saying that they can't remember a time when a guy has come back from knee surgery that quick and had to play 2 games. Had to start with 2 games in 5 days.
So this is actually my somewhat hot take, kind of. I don't think Barkley's going to play.
You don't think he's going to play?
I don't think he's going to play. I think he was so ineffective week 1, and the fact that you're already potentially holding him out for week 2 based on the knees and everything,
Okay.
I really think it's a bad spot for Barkley. I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants err on the side of caution on this one.
Okay. Not a bad take, and I'm not going to roast you for it. I think.
I mean, you're talking about limited as in maybe 10 carries. So whether he plays or not, we both think he might play ceiling-wise 50% of the offensive snaps.
Yeah, he played 48% of the offensive snaps last week. He had 10 carries for 26 yards.
So it sounds bold when I say he's not going to play. I don't think it's as bold as it sounds.
No, I mean, it would be.
It would be a surprise, but the more you think about it, the more it would kind of make sense because Cleveland is not using Odell again for week 2, and people are panicking. But on the other hand, I much prefer the way Cleveland's handling it than throwing Barkley out there to get killed. You?
The only reason I might doubt you a little bit, Scott, is because it's a division game. If it was the other way around, if they'd have started with Washington and then playing Denver the second week, I think maybe you're sitting them. But when you start with a loss and then you've got a division game in week 2, I want to say 19% of the teams have made the playoffs after starting 0-2, and that could be high.
But the point is, I just think Barkley's been injured so early, so often, division game or not. Your goal is to just let him survive for the entire season. So that's my takeaway. Either way, for the sake of this game, I like Washington, and I like the under. I think Washington with Heineke. I think Heineke's not bad. I think people are going to go, Fitzpatrick. I mean, he's a gunslinger who can win you games. That's true. But if you ended up making the playoffs last year and Alex Smith didn't lose you games, isn't the formula already in place because you did the same exact thing last year?
Yeah, pretty much. And do you think Taylor Heineke's better than Alex Smith was last year?
I think Alex Smith was one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league last year, despite the great story. The interesting caveat here is that Daniel Jones actually undefeated against Washington for whatever reason, so he's fared well, or the Giants have. I still like the under. I think you're going to see a hideous game, especially since it's after week 1. So it's the first game. Both teams are definitely beaten up physically, and now you have a quick turnaround for a division game. I think it's going to be some hideous football in the spot. You?
I agree with that. I've got a premium. In fact, the premium that I've been pimping, I've got on this game, so I don't really want to give that away right now.
Either way, I'm looking at Washington in the under.
Okay, I think that's fair. I will say that there is something interesting about this line. It opened up at 4.5, and then on the news of Fitzpatrick being out, it quickly went down to 3, and now it's back to 3.5 in most spots. There's been some once it got to 3, I think the sharps hit that again.
I still think people are sleeping on Heineke. I thought he looked pretty good in week 1.
I agree with that. I think that when people that are automatically writing this off as a Washington loss with Taylor Heineke instead of Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm not sure that's
I'm
happening.
just saying, if you have Heineke against Daniel Jones, you're probably winning the turnover battle.
Yep, very good. All right, so we also have a college game, Scott. This is going to be um,
Well, we're saving something in this game for later, but we can talk about it briefly.
we'll talk about it a little bit here. That's right. That's right. We do have a I forgot we do have a play on that. So you know what? Let's put a pin in that. We don't have many baseball games to get to, so let's hit the baseball schedule real quick. See if anything jumps out at you. See if some of these undecideds have filled in. Now, like I said, it's getaway day, and they are killing us with getaway day, Scott. Everything just about is during the day.
I'm annoyed. I can't fade the Mets. They don't even play
Uh,
today.
you got Kyle Hendricks, Scott, going for the Cubs against undecided for the Phillies. As it stands right now, Phillies about minus 200. You just auto play the Cubs there.
I think you have to consider it. Once again, full game, not first five if you like the Cubs, because Phillies might be going for that record soon.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And Hendricks has been one of the very few bright spots for that Cubs pitching staff this season. So
I'm looking at Houston run line. I mean,
okay,
Otto was good in his first outing. Last two have not been great. Last outing got absolutely shelled. Valdez, I like. I think he's still slept on. I think he's a pretty good pitcher. And
okay.
Houston has picked its spots in this series where they've scored a lot of runs, then took the night off, then scored 7 more runs yesterday. Houston's just a much better team. So if you have the better starting pitcher and the much better offense, I'm gonna take Houston.
What do you got, the run line there? I mean, you're laying such a huge number.
No, it would be the run line because you're getting a guaranteed 9 at bats because you're on the road.
Right.
But Otto's not very good. The bullpen had to go a long way yesterday because Arahara only went about 4 innings. Minus 135. I don't hate that for Houston.
Okay. Very good. Very good. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about that Yankees game real quick. That's going to be a 5:05 start. So if you're listening to us on the radio, you don't have much time. You might want to pound it. Scott Montgomery over Ellis. Yankees 250, 240, somewhere in that neighborhood. Any value on the birds?
Not really. I think they had their game yesterday, and I think they blew it. The
Okay.
Yankees, of course, are a huge favorite. Totals at 10. I'm actually looking at first 5 under because I actually think Ellis has not been as bad as people expected him to be once he actually joined the rotation. Montgomery's been good. He gets no run support ever. I'm going to go with the first 5 under.
Okay. Detroit at Tampa. Alexander against Inns.
I think there's value on Detroit here because Detroit's won, I believe, 5 of 6. They swept the Brewers. This team's been sneaky all year long. Hinch has got something going there. Tampa's the better team, but I don't think they should be minus 200, minus 210 here.
I think Detroit's like 6 games under 500, and
Yeah, and people treat them.
they would love to finish 500.
People treat them like they're 25 under 500. This
Yeah.
team's not terrible.
They're treating Detroit like they're playing the way we predicted they would.
Yeah, they're actually not that bad. I think
No.
there's value on Detroit.
And the weird thing is about the Tigers, their pitching staff has been pretty much decimated for the second half of the season.
Or if you're a little scared, Detroit plus 1.5 because Tampa might not have to bat in the 9th inning.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. All right, Scott. Well, you know what? We have put our heads together, and we do have another game that we want to talk about here. We've come up with our best play, and this is one that we really kind of dig, my friend. So let's do our thing, everybody. You guys ready? Put on those overalls. Leave that strap undone because you want to be cool. Straw hat. Climb on that tractor. Get ready to fire that John Deere up, baby, because it is time once again for Bet the Farm. All right, as we've been. Okay, that's enough, guys. Seriously. Okay. Let it go. Get them loaded up, Scott. What are you doing? My goodness. All right, so there is one more game that we haven't talked about, and that is a college football battle between the Ohio Bobcats and the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns, or if you prefer, the Louisiana Lafayette Ragin' Cajuns. They're trying to call themselves Louisiana. Not really catching on yet. But be that as it may, we're going to play the under 57.5. That's minus 110 offshore pretty much most spots. It's an Ohio offense that's not good, and it's certainly not good yet. They've scored just 26 points last week against an FCS school. The first week they played what should have been an FCS school in Syracuse, put up 9 points. That's not great. Not throwing the ball well, averaging just 190 passing yards per game, and they don't find themselves in any hurry at all. They rank 44th in the nation in time of possession. And Louisiana Lafayette, the Raging Cajuns, man, they play some underball there at home. The under is 10-1 in the Cajuns' last 11 home games. This may not be a pretty one, Scott. You may have a couple of ugly football games that you're going to be flipping back and forth. Doesn't mean we can't make money. That number's way too high. Give us the Ohio Lafayette under 57.5.
Plus, I mentioned it for the NFL with how you had a game over the weekend. Now you're playing on a short week. It's the first time these teams are playing on Thursday. They played last week. Immediate turnaround. I expect some sloppy football, especially with Ohio. That team is supposed to play sloppy because they're not very good.
Very good. All right. That's going to do it for our Bet the Farm play. And that is going to do it for this edition of Winners and Winers Radio. We appreciate you guys listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe, do all that stuff. And, of course, good luck on all your plays tonight from myself and from Scott. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you tomorrow on Winners and Winers Radio. Take care, everybody.